such a time as this.
And welcome to Roundtable for such a time as this, the Christian response to a family member's gender confusion. How should we as Christians respond when those who are closest to us and those who are closest to us have bought into the gender confusion? How should we respond? What should we say? How shall we behave? This is very, very, very difficult. But here at For Such a Time as This, we take on these difficult topics. We wrestle with, again, those things that most people, in our humble opinion, most people will not touch or deal with. Start off with a scripture tonight. I think would be appropriate. God defines, you know that book, The 5 Love Languages. God has a love language. Verse 14:21. Whoever has my commandments and keeps them, he it is who loves me. And he who loves me will be loved of my Father, and I will love him and manifest myself to him. Drop down to 24. Whoever does not love me does not keep my word. And the word that you hear is not mine, but the Father who sends it. Christians, we cannot claim to love God yet live in disobedience. Does it mean we're perfect? Absolutely not. But that's our heart's desire. We seek to love God as we are obedient. With me tonight, Nancy. Nancy, how are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Good. Ben, hailing from Sean Hoffman Estate. I don't know. Hoffman Estate. Ben, how are you?
Very good, very good.
And then the Wilson girls, the Wilson twins. Vicky, Chloe, how are you all?
Good evening. Doing well.
Doing well.
It is Vicky who came up with this show, and she's producing it. But I wanted to, before I turn it over to Vicky, when it comes to this topic, I don't know if you saw it. There's a video that's going viral. It's going viral. Hey, before we go to the video, please let me know if we're coming through loud and clear. Give me a thumbs up if you can on Rumble, if you can on YouTube. Give me a thumbs up that we're coming through loud and clear. But there was a viral video. I don't know if you saw it, dealing with this topic, in which President Trump, ex-President Trump, was being interviewed by Megyn Kelly about this gender issue. We'll play it and then we'll get the panel's reaction afterwards. Here it is.
Can a man become a woman?
In my opinion, you have a man, you have a woman. I think part of it is birth. Can the man give birth? No, although they'll come up with some answer to that also someday. I heard just the other day they have a way that now the man can give birth. No, I would say I'll continue my stance on that.
And yes, this awkward response did in fact cause many people to split on that. Panel, how do you make sense of that? Were any of you all happy with that?
No,
that response?
It's pathetic. He should have been straight.
Part of its birth.
His opinion?
Clear.
I mean, is it really a matter of opinion? Isn't it a matter of medicine and science?
Yeah, it's a matter of birth, yeah. And it's one day they're going to come up with men give birth. No, they're not. I don't believe that. You can put all the artificial wombs you want. A man is not going to give birth. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that was very weak of him.
Yeah,
that was weak.
I was surprised. Like, doesn't seem like
should have
Trump,
been. No.
But he was direct.
He was pro.
Direct.
He was pro LGBTQ when he ran the first time. People don't realize that. He never made any qualms about that.
Right, but the T usually is separated out because so many people.
You're right.
It is a winning issue.
You're right.
It is so different than the L and the G.
Yeah, and it shows just the confusion And the hot topic it actually is in our culture with that. I will turn it over to Vicky. Vicky, take it away.
All right. So yeah, we're really not going to talk about the politics of this. We really want to talk about the Christian response, because how would you feel? What would you do if you were told your nephew is now identifying as your niece? That's what happened to us in our family. So we're going to talk about that, and then just talk, in general about what is the Christian response, because with so many young people more and more every day being swept up in the madness of destructive radical gender ideology, it's possible you may someday face this situation within your own family, your immediate family, or your extended family. I sure didn't expect it in mine, but yet here we are. We all love our family members, and because of that, we want what's best for them, and we want them all to come to faith. And if we stand in truth, in God's truth, we will be accused of not being loving, because most people believe that love equals affirmation. And they can't understand loving someone enough to tell them the truth, which is what, of course, we believe. So what do? How do we keep up a relationship without affirming, without caving to the affirmation? And is it even possible? So a few weeks back, we talked about Beckett Cook, and we listened to his testimony. If you'll recall, he was living the gay lifestyle in California for many, many years. And his family was a Christian family, and they did keep up a relationship with him. And his mother prayed for him for many, many years. But the one thing that's different with that situation and other situations as opposed to the trans situation is that Beckett, he never asked his family to affirm his lifestyle. He never did. And because he knew they wouldn't. He knew how they felt. So he was still willing to have a relationship without the affirmation. But with this, it's so, a lot of these folks, it's just, this is their identity. They can't separate it out. It's not, this is how I identify. This is literally, this is who I am.
Yeah.
So it's a whole different situation, and with other sins too. Like, I'm sure many of us, we all have family members, I'm sure, in our family who commit different sins. I mean, we are all sinners. Of course, the difference is, are we struggling with our sin or are we indulging in it? And I'm sure we all have family members who are likely not believers if they're indulging in their sin. For example, I have a family member who's living with their significant other, has been for many, many years. Mm-hmm. They don't ask me to affirm their sin, and I never, of course, would. Mm-hmm. But yeah, like with the trans ideology, we're being asked to affirm, not just affirm, but participate in it. We are in the wrong, and we are not being loving. So just to talk a little bit more about our story. So we received a very large shock a few months ago. We actually were on a family vacation, and one of my siblings called me to drop the bomb that my nephew and my kid's cousin has been struggling with gender confusion for 2 years and had been taking female hormones for nearly he's probably been struggling with it for more than 2 years. We were told, actually, my sibling didn't tell me that on the phone that night, but I did find out later that my nephew has been taking female hormones for nearly 2 years, and we had no idea. So my sister's family does live out of state, which is partially why we didn't know. We only usually see them a couple of times a year, and we'd been given excuses for the last year and a half why this nephew couldn't come visit his grandma and the rest of us. And we believed it, that he had to work or he had school, and we did not know anything else was going on. And like I said, by the time we were told, he'd already been taking female hormones for nearly 2 years. So some of what my sibling told me is, the way she phrased it is, our eldest child is transgender female. She didn't say our son is struggling with gender confusion. Our son wants to identify as female. No, she literally said he is this. And then she followed up with an email. And one of the things in the email said, one thing of which we are sure is that this is a state of being, not a choice. In truth, we believe that with all of the challenges and worries that we all have, no one would ever choose this path. What do you guys think?
That doesn't. It doesn't make any sense. I feel like it is a choice, right?
I think so. I think so too.
I mean, we all have, what do you guys think? Different feelings, and it's always our decision how we act on those feelings.
Right.
There's a child psychiatrist. Her name is Dr. Marian Grossman. You might have heard of her. She's been knee deep in this for many, many, many years, and she is one of the few who, when the child's feelings do not match up with their physical reality, she addresses the feelings rather than start them on hormones and then, do potential bodily mutilation. So obviously, as Christians, we can't accept this. We obviously believe that God made us in his image. He made us male and female. We know that people suffer from gender dysphoria, but that when our feelings are at odds with our reality, the correct path is to address the feelings. Dr. Grossman also wrote a book that I've been reading called Lost in Translation. So we are the only ones in the extended family who are not going along with this.
Wow.
My two siblings who live here in Illinois are going along with it. My mother is going along with it. Like I said, my father passed away last year. So, it's really tough. Of course, going on in the email, she says, one challenge that we deal with is that there are so many different views about this. We are aware that there is a vast difference between acceptance and support. We cannot, nor do we intend to challenge anyone's beliefs. Please do not challenge our beliefs, as we bravely know our truth.
But we'll challenge your belief.
And then the next sentence, she says, please honor her new name and pronouns.
Vicky, it just dawned on me because they kept it, like you say, hidden for 4 years.
For 2 years.
For 2 years. And your dad just passed. Do you think your dad would have accepted this? Maybe? You don't know. I know speculation.
It's so hard to say.
Hard to say.
I hope not, but.
Okay.
But my mom's been a devout Catholic for her whole life, so the fact that she's accepting it. That's
a shock.
Is really shocking.
This kind of sounds like a crossroads here, because, they're asking you to accept something that is clearly wrong or affirm it.
But it's not wrong to them. That's the point. They can't see it. They can't see the wrong in it.
Right.
That's the disturbing part about it. Because again, logically speaking, where does it end? So if I feel like a dog, am I a dog? If I feel like a cat, am I a cat? And the answer to that is yes. The furries and whatnot. This leads to chaos.
But am I not mistaken that even non-believers are going to be held accountable for their actions?
Of course they are.
I don't think they're going to come and say, "Oh, we didn't know."
Of course, but they don't believe that. They don't believe it.
No.
So my one sibling, my mom had a lot of questions when we came back from our trip. We didn't bring it up because my mom, she is older, and I'm sure, but she had a lot of questions, and so she kept wanting to talk about it. So one of my siblings who lives here, she asked me to stop speaking to my mother about this. Like, I'm not even allowed to talk about it unless I agree.
How did you handle that?
Well, I don't accept that. I don't accept that you can police my conversations with my own mother. One of the other things she said with regard the sibling here, she said, please open your heart and mind that there are more than one acceptable ways to deal with this. Please trust that our other sister and her husband are intelligent people that are doing their best. I don't see why you can't believe what you do, about males not being able to become female and still respect names and pronouns. They are just words. And it is just love and respecting their wishes. So are they just
If
words?
they're just words, why does it matter if we don't use them?
Right.
That's a good.
And yeah,
That's a
exactly.
good,
And as Christians, can
yeah.
we use these new names and the wrong pronouns?
No.
Is it a sin to lie? I feel like it's mocking God's creation.
No.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is this is wow.
And doesn't our language reflect our beliefs?
Of course
And
it
how
does.
can you say you're not challenging my beliefs when you're asking me to speak directly against my own beliefs?
What did she say she wasn't challenging you? I know. I said
Yeah, in
that,
the
but
email, she said, please do not challenge our beliefs, and we will not challenge anyone else's.
Oh, really? I
And
don't
then
think
in the
she
next sentence, she said, but please respect the new pronouns and the new name. Well,
I
you
missed
just
that.
challenged my beliefs.
Yeah.
But you know what that reveals is that sometimes people could take a position that is so self-centered and so narrow focused you can't even see how hypocritical you are being in the very moment.
Yeah.
Right. And that is completely hypocritical and is blinding.
I mean, I am devastated for my nephew. I can't imagine the mental anguish he must have been in to think that this is somehow the solution to his problems.
Yeah.
I mean, it's devastating.
It's like a way of escape for some people. They think this is the solution, but
Yeah.
it's actually going to add to the problem.
Right.
And it's almost like she was telling her son, yeah, you were born in the wrong body.
Yeah.
How is that loving?
How does that help anybody?
So it's like they're making it worse. The
Yeah.
parents are.
Right. Yeah. We have a clip coming up. We have a couple clips before it, but we have one coming up where Liz Wheeler talks with a transgender identifying person. It's really good. But first we have a video talking about the pronouns from Melissa Doherty.
Imagine for a second, if you will, that you are somebody that has a lot of issues with the trans contagion. The trans ideology is running rampant, and you think it's a total cage stage activist playground, okay? You don't agree with the surgeries. You don't agree with the social contagion, how it's getting in the schools, the trans species stuff, you know, the big stuff, all right? But pronouns? Who cares? Not a big deal. If someone wants to be a he, her, a they, them, a unico, unicorn, why does that matter? I'm not going to make a big deal out of this, you say, and I'll submit to whatever they want to be called. Okay, here's the issue. Imagine you're across from a minor or a person that wants to have breast removal surgery because she thinks that she's a boy and wants to go by he, him pronouns. You actually think that this is wrong, that she will regret it. So you, being polite, approach her using he, him pronouns. You explain that he is making a mistake by taking hormones so young and he should not remove his breasts. And the girl looks at you straight in the eye and says, but I'm a boy. I need to feel at home in my body. Thank you for affirming this by using my pronouns. You then cannot be against anything that she is wanting to do for herself or why anyone else shouldn't be able to do it for that matter, because you're affirming her very identity to do so. This is so important. It's like an upside down pyramid, all right, when it comes to the foundation of the problem with this. As a woman, I think this is particularly true of men. Think about it. Once you use the pronouns, it's difficult to say she shouldn't be able to go into a woman's locker room. No, she can't play in women's sports. No, she can't be Woman of the Year. It's very similar in my mind to say approaching someone with a terrible illness and say they identify as healthy and want others to affirm this, even though they're clearly sick. You affirm to be polite. You then cannot turn around to this person you're affirming as healthy to their face and tell them that they should really see a doctor. It's an unfortunate contradiction. It's a denial of reality. Why is there a denial of reality to be seen as tolerant or having good manners? It's literally the emperor's new clothes ideology, really, when it comes down to it. So,
Well,
It's totally the emperor's new clothes.
it is, and this is what the issue of today is that they want you to capitulate. They want you to bow down to the statue.
Yep. My mom just says, well, Vicky, If it makes him happy, that's all that matters. Like, since when is temporary happiness, a temporary feeling of happiness, the purpose of life and all that matters? So
that's tough, man.
Heavy stuff
That's tough.
there.
And the family. In your family, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we obviously, I love all my family members. I want them all to come to faith. I don't know if any of them are saved. I mean, it's hard to tell. I mean, I'm not seeing the fruit, let's say that. Based on this whole situation, I'm not seeing the fruit. But yeah, it's tough because it really can tear families apart.
Oh, absolutely.
It really can. Because, yeah, I was told, my sister said if anyone doesn't go along, they can't be in the same room then with her family. So, okay, I guess we can't do family events together anymore. I mean, wow.
Yeah, of all things, we should not be united on this as believers. We cannot be united. I mean,
you mean we can't be?
We can't cave.
Yeah, exactly. Like united on this, it's a falsehood.
Yeah,
that's what they're asking you to accept something that's
just not true.
Yeah, it's sad.
Yeah, and obviously, I want what's best for my nephew, and obviously. Everything that I've learned over the last 8 years, I can't unknow it.
Right.
I can't unknow all the stories of the detransitioners that I've read. I can't unknow all the, the people who have regretted what they've done, the people who are so glad they didn't grow up today, who had these feelings but outgrew them. I mean, it's...
Maybe it's definitely possible he can turn around and say he doesn't want to do it anymore, and thank you guys for standing up. That's very possible.
I mean,
he could get saved.
Possible.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no question, that we will continue to stand strong. Yeah. It hasn't been easy, has it, Chloe?
No, especially with Grandma.
With Grandma, that's been the hardest part, All right, so we have more good stuff here from Melissa talking, another interesting argument against using the pronouns.
The idea of using pronouns is like a cultural god, an idol. And when we go back to the first century, we typically compare the plight of Christians as being highly persecuted and martyred. But what we may not consider is something that was equally hard, which was the daily choices that Christians had to make in regards to the little compromises that Christians were faced with. Okay, so for example, one of the earliest creeds of Christianity was Jesus is Lord, right? This seems like nothing today, like no duh, of course we believe that. But that was a big issue in the first century, because in the first century Roman Empire, Caesar was Lord. Rome was sympathetic, very syncretistic in this way to all beliefs and religions. You could believe just about whatever you wanted, just as long as you proclaimed Caesar as Lord and took a tiny pinch of incense and put it in a bowl for Caesar. My understanding is they didn't care if you believed it or not. They just wanted you to participate so you wouldn't be seen as like a traitor causing trouble in society, in the state. You had to fit in. So naturally, of course, Christians took issue with this because Jesus is Lord. So if a Christian went to someone's house, there was a household god or idol set up, and it was very customary to just do a little bow to the god when you came over. Christians couldn't give a pinch or a bow because they were so convicted that this was false worship, and them participating in any part of this was against everything they believed. So in this way, pronouns are like a little pinch of incense. Pronouns are the little bow. It wouldn't have been much for them to just give a pinch and take a bow. Why didn't they? Why would they care so much about something so small? It keeps the peace. You're just being polite. What's the big deal? If we give in to these little things, okay, when the big things come, what's to stop us from bowing? We've already bowed to Caesar. So why should the compromise stop there? Especially when it makes us seem tolerant and likable. Now, let me pause here for a brief moment and reflect on this a little bit more when it gets personal or complicated, especially when you're a Christian with a family member or close friend going through this.
Yep.
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting the way she made that analogy. Just a pinch of incense.
Absolutely. Just a little bit.
Just a little. And how many people who are identifying as Christians are doing exactly that with this?
Because if you're going to cave on this, again, you're just being conditioned to cave on everything.
Right, right.
And this may seem, because as Christians, right, love always rejoices in the truth. You can't lie while at the same time love, and you can't lie while at the same time worship. You can't. He's the God of truth.
Right.
Right? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. It's tough.
It is tough because, like I said, my mom goes to church, has her whole life. The sibling, the mother of the transgender identifying child, she goes to church. The other sibling, who told me it's no big deal, why can't you just, they're just words. She, I think, goes to church, but apparently none of their churches are speaking truth about this issue.
I think a lot of quote unquote evangelical churches have bowed on this issue, and they're not going to deal with it.
Well, yeah, I should qualify. So the mother of the transgender child goes to a Catholic church. My mom goes to Catholic. The other sibling goes to an organization that meets on Sunday mornings.
Okay, gotcha.
An ELCA church.
Okay, gotcha.
So,
what is? I guess the question is what. Since, and again, you may not have the answer to this, but how did, I guess for the larger question, how did this happen?
Right.
How did your family, who was traditionally conservative, right?
I mean, no, my sister who lives here definitely is not.
Oh, okay.
I thought this other sister, the mom of the nephew, was kind of a little, center right, How did this happen? That's a great question. I mean, they live in a very, very liberal part of the country.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure the schools didn't help. A lot of their neighbors are very far left.
TikTok.
TikTok.
I was about to say,
What's
maybe
TikTok?
friends
What's
or-
TikTok? Well, how did TikTok help that happen?
Social media is a
social
terrible,
media.
terrible.
Social contagion.
It's a social contagion. Yep.
Okay. Did you know that China does not allow the crazy TikTok stuff on in China, but they let it in America? Did you know that?
Yeah.
They how did the Chinese get so smarter than us as a culture?
Yeah. It's
They recognize
ridiculous.
what you feed your children will change your culture.
Yep. I think unfortunately there's just a lot of parents in our country who just don't pay attention to what their kids are consuming. I think it's really sad. I mean, how else do you explain up to 20% of kids now are identifying as somewhere LGB or T?
You think is that high?
That's
It
what I
is.
read.
Yeah, that's a stat.
Yep.
Yeah.
Who put that out?
Gallup.
Gallup.
Ooh. Gallup's not left leaning too, is it?
I don't think so.
Really?
So yeah, I don't know. I mean, how does it happen with any of these kids who are caught up in this madness? The schools are pushing it. Social media pushes it. They're normalizing it. They're telling the kids who are just the least bit happy that this is the answer to your problems. I don't know for my nephew, but other kids are told after a 30-minute consultation, they're giving out prescriptions for hormones. So
Yeah.
and the other thing I'm like I said, I was really devastated, and one of the things is I'm just very sad that I don't think that whatever is causing this mental distress in him, because my sister did say something, because when she called, we were at dinner at a restaurant, we were out of town on vacation. And she doesn't, we text and stuff, but she doesn't call that often. So I picked up, I thought something was wrong. And she's like, well, I don't know, something about like this was a life or death issue for him, and so, okay, if he was suicidal, is he getting help for what is the true underlying causes or comorbidities for, what's causing his suicide?
Did they even go there? Did they even go there? Did they even question what was causing the underlying?
I don't know.
Or was the underlying born in the wrong body?
Right. That's what they believe.
Yes,
that's what they believe. This is
underlying.
the problem.
Okay.
And it seems like they're unwilling to explore that there are any other issues at play, which is super devastating. So, our next clip here with Liz Wheeler is really good, where she talks more about this, getting to the underlying issues.
As someone who has self-harmed numerous times before coming out as trans, I now am trans, and I have since stopped self-harming and attempting suicide as I had beforehand. So I also find the statistic that you have claimed that many people who transition start harming themselves then very strange. Where have you gotten that information?
I don't think I said that. First of all, I'm really glad that you're in a better mental place. I think we can all agree that if someone is trying to self-harm or if someone is trying to kill themselves and they've gotten to a point that they're not, I'm happy about that. I'm not happy that you've embraced queer theory, because I ultimately think that that won't serve you well. I don't think that that will help you flourish. I wish that someone had said to you before you began your transition that you are beautiful just the way that you are, that you're beautiful in the body that you were made with, that God gave you, and that there's mental health care for you that can help you with your tendency or your inclination to harm yourself, to harm your body. There's things that you can seek, and I encourage you to seek, to address that without embracing an ideology that will ultimately lead to self-destruction. There are studies, if you're talking about the suicide rates of people who undergo transitions, there are studies that show that if you undergo a surgical transition, there might be a year or so where the suicide rate goes down, but it returns to its previous rate several years post-surgery, in addition to you having the physical issues that come with these experimental surgeries, which are not just experimental, but they come with a lot of side effects. They don't work. If they weren't underpinned by a leftist ideology, they wouldn't be approved for use in the public, because they would be acknowledged in the medical community that they do more harm than good. So if you're looking for help, there are so many people that are willing to help you. I encourage you to go to GenSpect. They're an amazing group that is willing to help people just like you, because you are worth it. Thank you for your question.
I would like to just ask one follow-up question.
Sure.
So you do mention that people after surgery do end up self-harming. Are you aware of why?
Yeah, so the argument that underpins your question is you're saying that our country is not tolerant, right? That they're bullied and they're pushed towards mental health issues because of, you would probably say, people like me. But the study that I'm referencing is actually from a Scandinavian country where they don't have necessarily the same moral fabric that we do. It's a very inclusive, very tolerant society, and there isn't the same division on this issue. So that statistic that I referenced, I believe it's from Sweden. You can fact check me on which Scandinavian country that it's from, but that wasn't a study that was done here in the United States. So the reason that they're continuing to self-harm after is because a transition, whether it's social, whether it's chemical, whether it's surgical, is not a cure for what they're suffering from. If you feel disassociated from your own body, it's either a dissociative disorder or it's a gender disorder where you don't feel comfortable, you feel like you were born in the wrong body, but surgery doesn't cure that. Chemical castration doesn't cure that. What you need, or anybody suffering from this, what they need is the mental health care to actually address those thoughts and those feelings. They don't need something that simply mutilates the outside of their body. But I appreciate your question. Thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you for your time.
Really appreciate it.
Yeah, I thought that was a really good back and forth.
Yeah, but you know, I mean, she did address the issue, but here's if I'm addressing it, here's what I ask: why were you self-harming in the first place?
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
And then when you said to get the mental health, what does that mean? Because their mental health is lop off body parts.
Right.
I mean, that's so
it's becoming a lifelong medical patient.
It's becoming a liphesitely medical
physically.
patient. So, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's all.
So the question is, why are you self-harming in the first place?
Mm-hmm.
Because the whole, just thinking about it, we're not going to talk about the Christian aspect of it yet, but if your mental health is contingent on wide acceptance, you're going to be miserable for your entire life.
Absolutely.
If you fall apart because Johnny and Susie and Peggy and Bobby, who you don't know, don't accept you, you got some serious issues. And that's where you start.
Yeah, and how unhealthy is it to tell kids that their mental health is dependent on what somebody else does?
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
You can't control what anyone else does. Yeah. How could you pin your mental health on that?
I don't. And so the way you do it is, I don't care how many surgeries you get, and I don't care how many hormones you get. If you are still dependent upon someone's acceptance of you or worldwide acceptance of you, chopping and lopping ain't going to help you.
Yeah, and if you're suicidal, why is turning these people into lifelong medical patients? How on earth can that be a good idea?
You know, Vicky, I think, put it this way. I'll say this. Here's one of the things that I've learned, that real short, there was a situation, I think I've shared this before, that there was a patient when I worked in the psychiatric unit who was suicidal. Mm-hmm. And one of the doctors said, hey, when you go home, get a People's Magazine and read a People's Magazine and read about other people's lives to take your mind off of your problems. And then they said, trust me, that's how I make it through the night sometimes. And that was a psychiatric doctor who said that.
Wow.
And I'm thinking, uh-oh. Ooh. If that's not the blind leading the blind.
Really? Seriously?
I don't know. So I think they don't have the answers. Just because someone has some letters behind their names, or just because they regurgitated some facts like a rhesus monkey in medical school, doesn't make them smart.
Right.
True.
And I think, Vicky, that's the best they've got. And so they forced it upon kids because they don't really have the answers. They don't have the answers.
Yeah, Dr. Maren Grossman talks in her book about how her profession has it is not based on medicine.
No.
It is not based on science,
No.
any of this.
Yeah.
I've
heard that
I
for
just
years.
wish my sister would have told us sooner, and I could have given her, and she could have just a little bit of an open mind and read just a little bit of the other side, just a little bit. And the other thing, people's feelings change all of the time. So why are you making permanent changes to your body based on feelings that can change anytime? And again, this child's brain is not fully developed yet. It is unbelievable what they are doing. I mean, like I said, I've been living this thing, studying this for 8 years. But now that it's in my family, it's just even
different.
more heartbreaking.
Yeah, it's different. You know, when you look at the whole transgender craze with kids, you know what I've come to observe and firmly believe? That when you have a kid, especially a young 5-6-year-old, they're transitioning, they're not the sick ones.
Yes.
It's the parents.
The parents.
Yep.
They've done something terribly, terribly wrong. And there's kids that are so confused. And the parents are the one who's pushing this stuff.
Yep. They're intentionally confusing these kids.
Vicky, do you remember when we had the big fight back when the student A, whatever, the whole transgender stuff? I told you. Well, we'll talk about that off air.
Okay. All right.
But anyway, it's usually the parents.
Yeah.
I've always seen it's the parents that lead to confusion, and it's parents. So that whole thing about the jazz thing.
Jazz Jennings. Oh, that's so heartbreaking.
It is
And he's still miserable after all the botched surgeries.
So.
And he's gained 100 pounds.
Yeah, he's messed up. But it's the mother that's messed up.
Right.
Because I was talking, and again, I can't watch that stuff, but I was talking to a few people, and here's what they told me. And I hope I'm not too graphic, but if you got kids, then I'm going to try not to be graphic. But they were telling me that, I guess, this Jazz was going off to school. And then the mom was upset, because as he was about to go off to school.
To college.
The mom was like,
I know. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Vicky, this is, you got to, it was really he. She got to keep the plug in.
Got to dilate it every day.
That's what
or it'll close up because it's a wound.
Yeah, I was like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? Yeah. And then someone explained to me that even though you have the surgery
to create a fake vagina,
good, Vicky said it. The body sees it as a wound.
Yep.
And keeps wanting to close it up.
Yep.
But in order to do it, you got to keep the plug in
for a certain amount of time each day.
So that it won't close.
Correct.
And the mother was upset, saying that when she goes off to school, she's going to stop putting the plug in. It's going to close up. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, she's the sick one.
Yeah.
She's the sick one. Oh my God, I felt so sorry for this Jazz.
Yeah, do you think, because I don't think my sister has any clue about the graphic, horrific nature of the surgery and I can nearly guarantee, because she's just not a researcher. And I think these people just go into it, and because my sisters also are trust the expert type of people. Whatever the doctor says they do.
Even after 2020?
They never question anything.
Even after 2020, you don't trust the experts?
Oh my gosh, don't get me started.
They should trust the expert, Jesus.
That would be nice.
They should be trusting.
That would be nice.
Yeah. He's
an
expert.
They don't question things. They don't.
Even people on the left don't trust the government. They trust the experts.
They trust. Mm-hmm. They trust They trust everybody except an independent thinker like me. Mm-hmm. I'm in the wrong. So anyway, back to what do we do as Christians? Because I don't want this to just be a therapy session for me. As Christians in general, what should we do if this happens to you or someone you love, a friend, a family member, extended family? Here's what I came up with. Obviously, we stay in the truth. We speak truth with love if we can.
Always.
Not if we can to the people. We always stay in the truth. We never cave because like we know God made us in his image and we can't mock his creation. He made male and female. We try and keep up the relationship if possible. That's much easier said than done. When they threaten you and tell you, if you don't go along and speak against your own beliefs, then we can't be in the same room together. I don't know what you do with that, but obviously we need to pray. Yeah, so which I pray every night for all my family members.
Yeah.
And we have to stay in obedience to God. But God, anything else?
Yeah, when you do engage, if they allow you to engage in dialogue, my question would be, what can you do? Because if they don't, if they don't engage in dialogue, there's not much you can do other than pray and just keep affirming your love for them. But if they're willing to engage in dialogue, the question would be, where do you start? Right. And I guess it would be different for each person, right?
Yeah.
I think that's a good question. Where would you even start? Okay, Vicky, let's have this conversation. Why will you not affirm? See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I go ahead.
Well, I just have different beliefs on this issue. I believe God made us male and female in his image, and I can't lie. I believe lying is a sin, and my nephew was born male, and he is male.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry that he has mental distress. I know gender dysphoria is a real thing, but the answer is to address the feelings, not transition.
You know what? There was this great wise man about 2,000 years ago. Whenever he would engage, and I never understood this until many years later, he would always engage people by asking questions.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So if they say, Vicky, let's go. Tell me why. Maybe to engage them in a question, okay, should I choose you or my God? If I was forced to choose, who do you think I should choose? God as I understand him or you? I would ask that question of my sister.
That's a great question.
Do you see what I'm saying? Because at that point, let her voice, and either she said, well, you choose me. Well, that's kind of harsh to say, right? Choose me over God, right? Choose me over God. She probably said, well, God as you understand him.
Yeah.
Right? Just something like that. But I think your understanding of God is wrong. So what did she just do if she responds to that? Because I couldn't imagine, so you know your sister better than me. I doubt if anyone says choose me over God, right? Even if you have any shred of divine belief, you would never say choose me over God, right? Then they'll attack your understanding of God. So I've just shifted.
Well, God wants my child to be happy.
Good. See, because what did you just do by asking that question? You shifted the whole battlefield to understanding of who God is.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Right.
You've just shifted the whole battlefield. And then she says, well, I want my God to be happy. And then the question, because now she's on your turf. How do you know that? What in the Bible tells you that? Because my Bible says, now you've just shifted the battlefield. Now you're on her turf. I mean, she's on your turf.
Right.
And now we can witness from the scriptures. And then whatever she says at that point, now it becomes, that is not what God says in his revealed word. Because the trick is the goal is always to get them not to argue with Vicky, but to argue with God.
Right.
That's all. So no matter what in apologetics I've ever done, it's easy to disagree with James. A lot harder to disagree with Jesus. Because people won't say that. Well, I think Jesus, think about this. Well, I think Jesus is wrong. See, that's hard to even have people come. I think God is wrong. I think that's harder for to come out of people's mouth. They can say Vicky's wrong all day long, ain't no problem. They can say Vicky crazy, but they won't say that about God. And so I got to shift the battlefield.
Yeah, that's true.
Toward God, a discussion on God. But still, no, I don't. Someone whose heart and mind is made up. It's going to be it's going to be a tough mountain to climb.
And who kept it from the family for so long. You know, I don't feel like someone who kept a secret like that really wants a relationship anymore. You know? But that's another story. All right. Well,
sooner or later, I think, because we know this, the people that choose that path, they're never going to be happy long term.
Yeah.
Never.
So we just continue to pray and try to be the light in our own families.
Yeah, and we need to pray that when he realizes what's going on, hope and pray that he will remember that there's one person who tried to tell me the truth.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, or one family.
Yep.
That tried to tell me the truth.
Do you want to end with the good Thomas Sowell quote you found, Chloe? Go for it. When you want to help people, you tell them the truth. When you want to help yourself, you tell them what they want to hear.
Yep.
Yep.
That is so true. All
right. Well, thanks, everybody.
Thank you for listening. It's a difficult topic, but God is still on the throne. Thank you all. Have a good night.